Hello again in this video series I'm calling My Journey to God in a Very Secularized World. This should be video clip number 22. I'd like to continue again on this, the problems in particular with those who have their eyes open and there's a lot of confusion. And Our Lady, by way of Don Stefano Gobi, in the Blue Book, referring to the Marian movement of priests, she said several times, she said, "Let there be no leader among you. I myself will be your leader. You must all be brothers, loving, understanding, and helping each other." That was July 16th, 1973. Then again she said, "Therefore, there should be no leader among you. You are all brothers, united in love. That must grow ever more and more." That was August 22, 1976. But the problem is, but without a certain human and spiritual maturity, it is very difficult to live these words that Our Lady gives us. Very soon after the death of Don Stefano Gobi, June 2011, certain people wanted to take charge of the Marian movement of priests, and thus there was born a profound division in the movement. These new leaders prohibited everyone to speak freely about the whole truth and about the real facts in the church, in particular the very negative fruits coming from the Vatican since March 2013. In Menotel's group, it is the opposite. One cannot even mention the words Pope Francis in the liturgy of the Mass. The priest who was closest to Don Stefano Gobi in the last years of his life was Padre Quartilio Gabrielli, who insisted after the death of Gobi that there is no need for a structure in the movement, as Our Lady told us in the book, but small groups everywhere which pray encyclicals of Eucharistic adoration with the Rosary and meditation on the words of Our Lady in the Blue Book. Don Stefano, by the way, you can read this in my article, "Only a Remnant of the MMP Will Remain." Don Stefano Gobi, who knew this well, did not provide for any structure for the movement before he died. Don Stefano Gobi, an instrument of Our Lady in founding the Marian movement of priests, prophetically predicted in his meditation 2003, and a meditation on Gideon's battle against the Madianites in the book of Judges, chapter 7, where only a remnant, in Don Stefano Gobi said, only a remnant of the movement will be ready for the heroic climb of Calvary up to the end. But with this remnant, Our Lady will obtain her victory. That's a strong word from him. And again, you can find it in the article I just mentioned, these exact words of Don Stefano Gobi. Because he offers some insights into what Our Lady, this article offers some insights into what Our Lady revealed to Don Stefano Gobi. And Our Lady also said, "This will in fact be a time of great falls on the part of my beloved sons, my priests." John Paul II, he spoke and wrote often about the importance of dialogue among Christians, and above all among priests, in order to seek the truth and the solutions together. One finds often in the Blue Book the insistence of Our Lady to become little, smallness, which also means to seek the truth and the solutions outside of our own heads, from God. Our Lady tells us, by way of Don Stefano Gobi, she says, "I have chosen you precisely because of your littleness," speaking to Don Stefano Gobi, "your poverty. Jesus looks with pleasure and with predilection only on the small, the pure of heart, the simple." That was a message September 12, 1975. She continues, "Jesus knows that only the little, the pure of heart, know how to listen with docility to his words and to put them into practice. He gathers into the precious garden of his divine love the humble, the poor, the simple, the weak. He sees himself ever followed with faithfulness by my little children, who are poor in spirit and in goods. And with them he is forming his disciples, who again today will remain with him even to the end. This is message September 8, 1997. There's a great difference and different effects between what Minutella says and what Our Lady says by way of Don't Gobi in the Blue Book, which leads to true humility and trustful spiritual childhood, and to suffer more and more with Jesus on the cross and with our sorrowful mother at the foot of the cross, for a true personal preparation and for the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary in this period. Mary did not shout condemnations at those who crucified her son Jesus. You know, she forgave her enemies. She was silent. She became the queen of martyrdom, or in the litany of our Blessed Lady, Queen of Martyrs, pray for us. I too am convinced that Pope Benedict was forced to go away and that the last conclave was not canonically valid. You might read my article with the title, Pope Benedict XVI Forced to Resign. That's the title of the article. But it's very important to us, all of us, to be, as true saints in the history of the Church, to do what they did in great crisis. Otherwise, there will be no true and lasting fruits, which are part of the plan of our Queen and our leader, of our general with 12 stars. I like that in Revelations, Book of Revelations 12:1. Chosen by God for this period in the Great Tribulation and the Great Apostasy. If Father Minutella does, as Our Lady says in the Blue Book, you know, humility, trust, and so on, and everywhere Our Lady appears, such as at Fatima, Don Minutella would lose many of his followers, who prefer to hear a priest that continually criticizes and the followers of Satan instead of a priest who speaks often about the lives of the followers of Jesus, the saints, with true humility and total trust in the Heavenly Mother, and to suffer in silence with Jesus and Mary at the foot of the cross in this period of the crucifixion of the body of the Christ. If you want to read also even about that in the Catechism of the Catholic Church of John Paul II, read paragraphs 675 to 677. Because our human nature leads us to criticize others but not ourselves. It is true that it is very important for a priest to warn souls of the numerous traps of Satan today. But to do more than this, and for the wrong and unvirtuous reasons, does harm to the souls. To criticize continuously the guilty people in the Church does not help souls to imitate Jesus, Mary, and all the saints, but rather leads people toward a sectarian mentality and pride. At least 2 people on Facebook, after having seen some of my articles, wrote to me to go out and work with Minutella's group, insinuating that if I do not work with Minutella's group, I am not doing anything worthwhile as a priest. Having convinced so many among his followers, about 40 to 50,000 here in Italy, that most masses are invalid outside his group. Minutella needs priests for his special group, as do many traditional schismatic groups. And I wrote in a couple of articles about this. One article is called A Common Sense Rebuttal to Schismatic Traditionalists and Sedevacatists, and also another article, The Great Difficulty of Overcoming Pharisaism, the difference between schismatic traditionalists and the false pope prophecies. In practice, Minutella is the pope of his group, as if the priest who can speak well on YouTube is the criteria for being the infallible head of the group. I do not see any indication that Minutella is willing to dialogue with anyone who is not in agreement with himself, which is exactly what Cardinal Bergoglio does. He doesn't speak to anyone who's not in agreement with himself. A great example was the four cardinals who wrote the Dubia. Cardinal Bergoglio does not speak with anyone who's not in agreement with himself. And I sense a certain attitude of revenge on the part of Minutella due to how he was treated in his diocese. But I too lost my parish. I would like a little example I'd offer very quickly here, that there was a priest that was very close in the group with Minutella. His name, and I met him and talked to him several times. His name was Don Natale. And after the death of Pope Benedict, Don Minutella became even more emphatic, almost like he was saying he was basically the Pope. And if you're not in agreement with me, get out. Well, this Don Natale, he was 80 years old, he had a little bit more experience. He began to say, well, this is not right. Wow, he was treated really bad by Minutella. He even was publicly, strongly criticized by Minutella because he wasn't totally in agreement with Minutella. Look at the way saints did things and the way people who were not saints did things, and we must open up our eyes. I'll finish this video clip here. May God bless you and Mary guide you.